The path is made by walking, and each step leads to its own truth. What if I told you that one of the world's most ancient and respected spiritual traditions does not demand you to accept its teachings as the only truth? Imagine a religion that invites you to explore, to question, and to embrace the wisdom found in every corner of the world, all while staying true to its own core practices. Yes, you heard that right. Buddhism is not like other religions that claim to have the ultimate truth or the one and only path to salvation. Instead, Buddhism offers something far more profound: the freedom to explore, to practice, and to discover your own truth. So, what makes Buddhism so different from other spiritual traditions? How is it possible for a religion to accept and even respect other religions without forcing you to abandon your own beliefs? Today, we're diving into something incredible: the power of Buddhism's open-minded approach to spirituality. In a world that is often divided by differing beliefs, Buddhism stands as a shining example of how a path of inner peace can coexist with the diverse beliefs of others. This unique aspect of Buddhism might just be the key to bridging the gaps between people, cultures, and faiths. Let's take a step back for a moment and think about this. How often do we see religious groups at odds, each claiming that their truth is the only truth? And yet, here is Buddhism, a path that does not require you to reject your faith, but rather invites you to expand your understanding of it, to grow through experience, and to deepen your connection to your own spiritual essence. In the next few minutes, we're going to unravel the deep, non-dogmatic approach of Buddhism. We'll explore why it doesn't impose beliefs, but instead offers practices that can transform your life and create space for respect, understanding, and coexistence with others. Buddhism does not demand belief in a higher power or a deity. It doesn't ask you to conform to a set of rules or rituals. Instead, it provides practical tools like mindfulness, meditation, and compassion to guide you in your own journey. And most importantly, it encourages you to test and experience the teachings for yourself, so that your truth comes from within. So, are you ready to discover how Buddhism can change not only your life, but also the way we view religion and spirituality in today's world? Let's begin this journey together. Part 2. The freedom to explore, the heart of Buddhism. Buddhism doesn't ask you to believe in anything. It asks you to experience everything. Now that we've set the stage, let's delve deeper into what truly sets Buddhism apart from other spiritual paths: its unwavering commitment to personal experience over blind belief. Imagine a practice that doesn't demand you to accept a set of doctrines, a religion that doesn't say, "You must believe this, or else." Instead, Buddhism invites you to test the teachings for yourself, to experience their effects on your life, and to walk a path that leads you to your own understanding and insight. Buddhism teaches that knowledge through experience is the highest form of wisdom. This is why it places such a strong emphasis on practices like meditation and mindfulness, tools that allow you to directly engage with your own mind and body. It is not about following rituals or adhering to a prescribed set of beliefs, but about gaining a deeper understanding of the nature of existence through personal exploration. This focus on personal experience is encapsulated in the Buddha's words: "Do not believe anything just because you have heard it. Do not believe anything just because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe anything just because it is written in your religious books. Do not believe anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders, but after observation and analysis. When you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it." So, the question arises: what makes Buddhism such a practical and transformative path in today's world? In a time when we are constantly bombarded with information, opinions, and beliefs, Buddhism encourages us to slow down, reflect, and connect with our own experiences. Through meditation, we begin to understand the workings of our own minds and realize how our perceptions shape our reality. Through mindfulness, we cultivate the ability to live in the present moment, free from the distractions of the past or the anxieties of the future. But the beauty of Buddhism lies in its simplicity. It doesn't require us to change who we are or abandon the beliefs we hold dear. Instead, it provides us with a framework to see more clearly, to act with greater awareness, and to live with more compassion. And in doing so, we naturally begin to find harmony not only within ourselves, but also with the world around us. Are you starting to see how Buddhism's non-dogmatic approach might actually be the key to bridging the divides between different cultures, religions, and ways of thinking? It's not about claiming the ultimate truth. It's about discovering your truth and allowing others the space to discover theirs. In this segment, we've explored the essence of Buddhist practice, experience over belief. But there's another crucial aspect we need to understand that deepens this exploration: the concept of Dharma, the universal law or truth that governs the universe and the moral order of life. Dharma is not a dogma or a belief system to be followed. It is a living, breathing truth that can be discovered through personal practice. In the next section, we'll dive into the concept of Dharma, what it truly means, and how it can transform our lives. So stay with me. The journey is just beginning. Part 3. Understanding Dharma, the universal truth. Dharma is not a belief. It is the law of nature, unfolding moment by moment. We've now touched on Buddhism's focus on personal experience over belief. But what is it that guides this experience? What is the deeper truth that we, as seekers, are ultimately striving to understand? This brings us to one of the most important concepts in Buddhism, Dharma. In its simplest form, Dharma can be understood as the natural law or universal truth that governs all of existence. It's the inherent order of the universe that we are all part of, yet often fail to recognize. It's not an abstract idea or something to be memorized. It is the very fabric of life itself. Dharma is not something we believe in. It is something we experience through our actions, our thoughts, and our relationships with others. The beauty of Dharma lies in its universality. It applies to every living being, across all cultures, religions, and backgrounds, whether we realize it or not. Every action we take is influenced by Dharma, whether we're aware of it or not. It's not confined to Buddhism alone, but is a universal law that applies to the entire cosmos. So, what does it mean to follow Dharma? In the Buddhist tradition, to live in accordance with Dharma means to act in ways that align with the fundamental nature of the universe. It's about understanding the interconnectedness of all things and striving to live with wisdom, compassion, and ethical conduct. The Buddha taught that the path to liberation is rooted in the understanding of Dharma, and that when we align ourselves with this truth, we naturally move toward peace, joy, and freedom. But here's the paradox. Dharma is not something you can force yourself to follow. It's not a set of rules to follow rigidly, nor is it something you can simply believe in. It is something you must come to know and experience for yourself. In fact, it's only through practice, through the intentional cultivation of mindfulness, ethical behavior, and meditation, that we can come to know Dharma on a deeper level. Consider the Buddha's teachings on the Four Noble Truths. These truths offer us a clear framework for understanding the nature of suffering, its causes, and how we can transcend it. The path to overcoming suffering is the path of Dharma, and it's through aligning our lives with these truths that we begin to unlock a deeper level of understanding. At this point, you may be asking, how does this relate to me in my daily life? Well, the answer is simple. When you begin to live in harmony with Dharma, you begin to experience life in a new way. You see the interconnectedness of all things. You act with greater compassion, and you become more aware of the present moment. You no longer live in a state of reaction or confusion, but in a state of clarity, where every action is guided by wisdom and compassion. As we continue our journey through the transformative power of Buddhism, we will explore how understanding Dharma can lead to freedom, not just from suffering, but from the very patterns of thought and behavior that keep us trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction. The next segment will take us deeper into the idea of liberation and how Buddhism provides a practical framework for living a life free of attachment, craving, and ignorance. Part 4. Liberation, the path to true freedom. True freedom comes not from the absence of obstacles, but from the ability to remain unmoved by them. As we journey further into the teachings of Buddhism, we encounter one of the most profound aspects of the tradition, the concept of liberation. But what does it truly mean to be liberated? And how can we, living in a world full of distractions, suffering, and uncertainty, ever hope to achieve such a state? In many ways, liberation in Buddhism is not about escaping the world or avoiding difficulties. It's not about running away from the challenges that life inevitably brings. Rather, it is the ability to navigate through life with an inner peace that is unaffected by the external circumstances. It is the freedom to respond to life's challenges with wisdom, compassion, and clarity, rather than being caught in the cycles of desire, fear, and attachment that most of us experience daily. Let's take a moment to reflect on the Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment, the Four Noble Truths. These truths offer us a blueprint for understanding the nature of suffering, its causes, and most importantly, how we can transcend it. The third truth, the truth of cessation, tells us that suffering can be ended. And the fourth truth, the path to the end of suffering, is what we call the Noble Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the practical guide to living a life that leads to liberation. It consists of right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These steps are not merely ideals to aspire to. They are actionable practices that, when consistently applied, begin to reshape our experience of life. Now, you might ask, is liberation even possible for someone like me, living in a busy world filled with distractions and responsibilities? The answer is a resounding yes. Liberation does not require us to renounce the world or retreat from our daily lives. Instead, it asks us to transform the way we engage with the world. It's about cultivating a mind that is stable, focused, and free from the pull of craving and aversion. To understand this more clearly, let's explore the concept of attachment and how it ties into the idea of liberation. In Buddhist teachings, attachment is one of the primary causes of suffering. It's our clinging to people, possessions, and experiences that causes us to feel pain when they inevitably change or disappear. However, true liberation comes from learning how to let go, not in a detached or indifferent way, but in a compassionate way that allows us to experience life fully without holding on to anything. Think of it like holding a glass of water in your hand. If you grip it tightly, your hand will eventually become sore and tired. But if you hold the glass loosely, allowing it to rest comfortably in your palm, you can hold it indefinitely without strain. Liberation works in a similar way. When we learn to let go of our attachments and stop clinging to outcomes, we free ourselves from the inner turmoil that comes with constant desire and fear. This doesn't mean that we abandon our responsibilities or stop caring about the world. On the contrary, it means that we engage with the world more deeply and with greater wisdom. It means we learn to love without attachment, to act with integrity without expectation, and to live with a heart full of compassion, unburdened by the fear of loss or failure. As we continue to explore the path of liberation, we will look at the specific practices, such as meditation, mindfulness, and ethical living that help us cultivate this freedom. These practices allow us to quiet the mind, open the heart, and experience the world in its truest, most untainted form. But before we go deeper into these practices, let's pause and reflect on what liberation truly means for you. Is it the freedom to live without fear? Is it the ability to respond to challenges with calmness and clarity? Or perhaps it's the deep sense of inner peace that arises when you are no longer at the mercy of your desires and attachments. Whatever it is, the path to liberation is within your reach. It is not something that happens overnight, but through consistent practice and a commitment to living mindfully, it is entirely possible to experience freedom in your own life. Part 5. The practices that lead to liberation. Meditation is the key that opens the door to liberation. Now that we've explored what liberation is and why it's central to the Buddhist path, let's dive into the practical aspects, the daily practices that can guide us toward this state of freedom and peace. In Buddhism, there are two core practices essential to the path of liberation: meditation and mindfulness. These are the tools that allow us to directly experience the freedom and wisdom that the Buddha described. But how do they work? And how can we integrate them into our busy modern lives? Meditation, the art of turning inward. Meditation is often misunderstood as a mystical or abstract practice, but at its core, it is simply the act of focusing the mind and cultivating awareness. In Buddhist teachings, meditation is the key to training the mind to let go of distractions, attachments, and negative emotions, ultimately leading to inner peace. The most common form of meditation in Buddhism is mindfulness meditation, also known as vipassana. This practice involves paying close attention to the present moment, observing thoughts, sensations, and emotions without attachment or judgment. The goal is not to stop thoughts from arising, but rather to observe them as they are, without getting caught up in them. Through meditation, we begin to see the impermanent nature of all things. We start to realize that our thoughts, feelings, and experiences come and go, just like clouds passing through the sky. This understanding frees us from the grip of attachment and aversion, as we learn not to cling to things or push them away. One powerful meditation technique is anapanasati, or mindful breathing. By simply focusing on the breath, we can anchor ourselves in the present moment and calm the mind. In Buddhist teachings, the breath is often referred to as the bridge to the present moment, as it is always with us and always occurring in the here and now. Through consistent meditation practice, we develop greater clarity, insight, and peace. It is through this practice that we begin to experience what liberation truly feels like. A state of calm awareness where we are not controlled by our emotions or reactions, but rather we observe them with equanimity and understanding. Mindfulness, living with awareness. While meditation is often seen as a formal practice that takes place on the cushion, mindfulness extends far beyond that. Mindfulness is the ability to bring awareness to every moment of our daily lives, from brushing our teeth to interacting with others. In the Buddha's teachings, mindfulness is one of the key elements of the Noble Eightfold Path, and it is through mindfulness that we can begin to break free from the cycle of suffering. By practicing mindfulness, we become more aware of our thoughts, words, and actions, and begin to make more intentional choices that align with our highest values. One key practice of mindfulness is right speech. This involves speaking truthfully, kindly, and with compassion. The Buddha taught that our words have immense power. They can either heal or harm. When we speak mindfully, we create an environment of peace and understanding, not only for ourselves, but for those around us. Similarly, mindfulness helps us cultivate right action and right livelihood. By making choices that are ethical, compassionate, and aligned with our values, we create a life that supports our journey toward liberation. Mindfulness allows us to notice the small moments of our day that we might otherwise overlook. The beauty of a sunset, the joy of connecting with a friend, or the feeling of gratitude for a meal. In these moments, we can experience liberation, not in some distant future, but right now, in the present. The role of compassion in liberation. As we engage in these practices, we must not forget the importance of compassion. Karuna, or compassion, is the quality of heart that allows us to truly care for others and see their suffering as our own. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is the foundation of wisdom. It is through compassion that we are able to transcend our selfish desires and connect with the suffering of all beings. True liberation is not just about personal freedom. It is about the freedom of all beings. By cultivating compassion, we break down the barriers that separate us from others and begin to see the interconnectedness of all life. We realize that when one person suffers, all of us suffer, and when one person is liberated, we all move toward liberation. In many ways, compassion is the ultimate practice of liberation. It frees us from the ego's desire for separateness and opens our hearts to the suffering and joy of others. It is through compassion that we are able to transform our negative emotions into positive actions and cultivate a life of peace and harmony. Part 6. Overcoming the challenges on the path to liberation. The path to liberation is not an easy one, but it is a path worth taking. In the previous sections, we've explored the essential practices that lead to liberation, such as meditation, mindfulness, and compassion. However, as with any transformative journey, the path to freedom is not without its obstacles. It is a journey that requires perseverance, patience, and a deep commitment to change. In this section, we will explore the common challenges that practitioners face and discuss how to overcome them using the teachings of the Buddha. These challenges, though difficult, are not insurmountable. They are opportunities for growth and deepening our understanding of the teachings. Challenge 1. The monkey mind, distractions, and restlessness. One of the greatest challenges in meditation and mindfulness practice is the monkey mind. This term, commonly used in Buddhist teachings, refers to the restless and unfocused nature of the mind. It jumps from thought to thought, from distraction to distraction, much like a monkey swinging from branch to branch. In our modern world, where we are constantly bombarded by information, notifications, and demands on our attention, the monkey mind is more active than ever. It can be frustrating to sit in meditation and find that your mind is all over the place. Many new practitioners give up at this point, believing that they are not good at meditation or that they will never be able to calm their minds. The Buddha's teachings, however, offer a different perspective. The restless mind is not something to be defeated, but something to be observed. When distractions arise, notice them without judgment and gently bring your attention back to the breath or the present moment. Over time, the monkey mind becomes less chaotic, and meditation becomes a space for clarity and peace. A key teaching from the Buddha's Satipatthana Sutta, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, is to observe the mind's tendencies without attachment. Just as you would watch a passing cloud in the sky, observe your thoughts, knowing they will come and go. By doing so, you gradually train the mind to settle, creating space for insight and liberation. Challenge 2. The desire for instant results. Another common challenge in the spiritual journey is the desire for quick results. In a world that values speed and efficiency, it can be difficult to accept that spiritual transformation takes time. We live in a society that demands instant gratification, but the Buddhist path is one of gradual cultivation. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a concept called upekkha, equanimity. This refers to maintaining a balanced and calm mind in the face of all experiences, both pleasant and unpleasant. When it comes to meditation and mindfulness practice, it's important to cultivate patience and equanimity. The results may not be immediately visible, but with consistent practice, change will occur. The Buddha once said, "Just as a flower does not pick and choose the bees that come to it, the practitioner does not pick and choose the fruits of their efforts. They come naturally." Liberation is not something we can rush or force. It is a process of continuous cultivation, and the fruits of that practice will ripen in their own time. Challenge 3. Overcoming attachment to the self. At the heart of Buddhist teachings is the concept of anatta, the doctrine of non-self. This teaching states that the self is not an unchanging, permanent entity, but is instead a collection of impermanent aggregates. We are conditioned to identify with our bodies, minds, and roles in society. But Buddhism teaches us to let go of these attachments in order to realize our true nature. One of the greatest obstacles on the path to liberation is our attachment to the self, our ego. The ego feeds on identification with achievements, status, and external validation. As practitioners, we often cling to our sense of self, believing that it is the source of our identity and security. This attachment causes suffering, as it creates a false sense of separation from others and from reality. To overcome this attachment, we must practice the cultivation of wisdom and insight. The Buddha taught that right understanding and right view are essential to breaking free from the illusion of the self. By studying the teachings and reflecting on the impermanent nature of all things, we begin to loosen our grip on the ego and open ourselves to the reality of interconnectedness and non-self. One of the most powerful practices to address ego attachment is loving-kindness meditation, metta. By cultivating love and compassion for oneself and others, we begin to dissolve the walls that separate us from the world and experience the interconnectedness of all beings. Through loving-kindness, We soften the ego and open our hearts, making space for wisdom and liberation. Challenge 4. Facing doubt and uncertainty. Doubt is another challenge that many practitioners face. When we embark on the spiritual path, it is natural to question the teachings, wonder if we are on the right path, or even feel uncertain about the existence of enlightenment itself. The Buddha was aware of this challenge and often spoke about the importance of faith, not blind faith, but faith rooted in understanding and experience. The Buddha encouraged his followers to question everything, to test his teachings for themselves, and to see if they lead to peace and clarity. This is why Buddhism is often referred to as a path of experience. We are not asked to accept teachings on faith alone, but to investigate them through our own practice and insight. If doubt arises, do not suppress it, but acknowledge it. Reflect on your practice, your experiences, and the results you have seen in your life. As the Buddha said, "Do not believe what I say simply because you have faith in me, but because you have tested it yourself and seen the results." Challenge 5. Dealing with the unseen suffering. The final challenge many face on the path to liberation is dukkha, suffering. While most people understand that suffering is a part of life, many are unaware of the subtle forms of suffering that arise even in moments of apparent joy. These include dissatisfaction, longing, and a deep sense of disconnection. These forms of suffering are often invisible and are the root causes of our attachments. Buddhism teaches us to recognize all forms of suffering, both the obvious and the subtle, so we can address them at their core. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can begin to notice these underlying patterns of suffering and let go of the attachments that cause them. By seeing the impermanent nature of all things, we can learn to find peace in the midst of life's challenges. Part 7. Integrating liberation into everyday life. True freedom is not found in the escape from the world, but in transforming the world with a liberated heart. In this section, we explore an essential principle of Buddhist practice, integrating liberation into every moment of our life. True liberation is not just about reaching a state of inner peace during meditation. It is about carrying that peace and wisdom into the world. It transforms how we live, interact with others, and respond to life's challenges. Many people mistakenly believe that liberation or enlightenment is an end goal, something that can be achieved and then left behind. However, the Buddhist teachings remind us that liberation is a dynamic process, one that must be continuously cultivated and practiced in every moment, every breath, and every action. This section offers insight into how to bring liberation into every aspect of your life, so it becomes an ongoing expression of your true nature. First, bringing mindfulness to the ordinary is key. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in whatever you are doing, without distraction or judgment. Whether you're washing dishes, walking, talking, or eating, mindfulness allows you to be present in each moment. This transforms mundane tasks into opportunities for insight and peace. The Buddha teaches us to stop seeing the world as something to be controlled, fixed, or manipulated. Instead, we learn to see the world as it is, fully accepting each moment, each sensation, and each experience. By practicing mindfulness in every action, we allow ourselves to become fully alive in the present, free from distractions and anxieties that often pull us away from the here and now. Mindfulness isn't reserved only for meditation. It can be brought into every aspect of life. This shift in perspective can be transformative. For example, when you eat, truly taste and savor the food. When you walk, feel the earth beneath your feet. When you speak to others, listen deeply and attentively. This is how you integrate the teachings of liberation into the flow of daily life. Second, living with compassion and loving kindness is essential. The Buddhist teachings emphasize that the path to liberation isn't just about cultivating wisdom. It is also about nurturing compassion. True freedom is not about isolating yourself from others. It is about recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings. Living with compassion means actively seeking to alleviate the suffering of others. This can take many forms, from offering a kind word to someone in need, to volunteering your time, or simply being present for someone who is suffering. Compassion extends to all beings. including ourselves. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Loving kindness doesn't just stop with others. It is also important to cultivate compassion toward ourselves. We are often our own harshest critics, but the practice of metta teaches us to soften our hearts, to treat ourselves with the same kindness and care we offer others. By doing so, we build the foundation for true liberation, a heart full of love, free from hatred, resentment, and judgment. Third, responding with wisdom to life's challenges is a critical practice. Life is full of challenges, and no one is immune to suffering. However, the Buddha taught us that we cannot avoid life's difficulties, but we can change our relationship to them. Rather than reacting impulsively with anger, fear, or despair, we can respond with awareness, calmness, and understanding when we face difficulties. The first step is to pause and observe our reactions. Are we reacting out of habit, fear, or attachment? Or can we respond from a place of clarity and wisdom? The Buddha's teachings on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path provide a framework for responding with wisdom. By cultivating right view, right intention, and right action, we can face challenges without being overwhelmed. For example, when faced with criticism or conflict, we can choose to respond with patience and understanding, rather than defensiveness or anger. By recognizing that all things are impermanent, we approach difficulties with the knowledge that they, too, will pass. This perspective allows us to navigate life's ups and downs with greater peace and resilience, free from the suffering caused by attachment to outcomes. Fourth, cultivating joy and gratitude in everyday life is crucial. In Buddhism, joy and gratitude are not dependent on external circumstances. They are a matter of inner perspective. We practice mudita, sympathetic joy, and sampajana, mindful gratitude. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we shift our attention to what we already have. We begin to appreciate the small things, the warm sun on our face, the taste of our food, the smile of a loved one. Joy arises not from external circumstances, but from within. As we train our minds to recognize the beauty and abundance that already exists in our lives, joy becomes a natural state. Gratitude helps us to shift from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. We realize that we already have everything we need to be happy. The key to liberation is not in seeking more, but in appreciating what is already here. Fifth, embracing impermanence and letting go is the most profound way to integrate liberation. In Buddhism, anicca refers to the impermanent nature of all things. All things, including our thoughts, emotions, and external circumstances, are in constant flux. By accepting this truth, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes from attachment. When we understand that nothing lasts forever, whether it is pain, pleasure, success, or failure, we approach life with greater equanimity. We learn to let go of our attachments to outcomes and accept things as they are, without resistance. This ability to let go, to embrace the flow of life, is at the heart of liberation. Conclusion. As we conclude, we reflect on how to integrate the wisdom and peace of liberation into every corner of our lives. By cultivating mindfulness, compassion, gratitude, and acceptance of impermanence, we transform ordinary moments into opportunities for insight and liberation. The path to freedom is not a destination, but a continuous journey of awakening. Every moment can be an expression of our true nature. In the next section, we will explore the final aspects of the liberated life. We will discuss how to cultivate a mind that remains unwavering in the face of life's storms, and how to carry the light of wisdom into the world around us. May the wisdom of liberation guide you in every step of your journey. Part 8. Living as a beacon of light in the world. To live is to radiate light. And to radiate light, one must first find it within. As we move through the journey of transformation, we come to the realization that our growth and inner peace do not only benefit ourselves, but the world around us. We are not solitary beings on this path. Our evolution can uplift others, like a single candle lighting up an entire room. In this part, we will explore how to live as a beacon of light, not just for our own benefit, but to guide and inspire those who cross our path. The light within. The teachings of the Buddha emphasize that each of us carries within us the potential for profound wisdom, compassion, and peace. The journey of enlightenment, while deeply personal, is also about becoming an embodiment of the values we have come to understand. It's a reflection of the transformation that happens within. When we align ourselves with the inner peace we seek, we naturally begin to radiate that peace to others. Like a lotus rising from the muddy waters, our inner light shines brightest when we allow ourselves to grow through difficulties, rather than letting those difficulties define us. Every challenge we overcome adds to the brilliance of that light. The more we learn, the more we grow, and the more we illuminate the world. Radiating compassion. Living as a beacon of light also means living as a beacon of compassion. True compassion is not about giving what we do not need, but offering what others need most. Understanding, kindness, and patience. When we let go of our own attachment to comfort and self-interest, we create space to be truly present for others. This presence is often the light that others need when they are lost in darkness. In Buddhist philosophy, compassion, karo, is a natural state of the mind, a direct extension of wisdom. Compassion does not demand anything in return. It simply gives, without conditions or expectations. Through compassionate action, we create a ripple effect of goodwill that can spread far beyond our immediate circle, leading through example. Sometimes, the most profound impact we have on others is not through our words, but through the way we live. People observe, and through our actions, they learn what is truly important. In a world that is often caught up in fleeting distractions, living in alignment with our values and showing consistency in our actions can be an incredibly powerful form of leadership. Buddha's life was a testament to this idea. He never asked others to follow blindly, but instead showed them through his actions how to live a life of peace, mindfulness, and compassion. When we embody these principles, we become living examples of the teachings, and our light illuminates the path for others to follow. Practical steps for becoming a beacon of light. First, cultivate inner peace. Make time for meditation, reflection, and mindfulness practices that allow you to reconnect with your inner peace. Second, practice compassion. Engage in acts of kindness, both large and small. Listen deeply when others speak. Offer a helping hand, or simply be present with someone in their time of need. Third, live authentically. Align your actions with your deepest values. Do not compromise your integrity for fleeting desires or external expectations. Fourth, embrace impermanence. Understand that the struggles and challenges you face are temporary, and that each moment is an opportunity for growth. Fifth, share your wisdom. Don't keep your wisdom to yourself. Share the insights you've gained on your journey, through words, deeds, or even the way you live your life. The impact of your light. Just as the sun provides light to the world without asking for anything in return, when you live as a beacon of light, you will see that your life begins to touch others in profound ways. People may come to you for advice, inspiration, or simply for a moment of peace. Your actions may seem small, but over time, they have the power to create a ripple effect that can transform not just individual lives, but communities, and even entire societies. As you walk this path, remember that the light you radiate doesn't come from outside of you. It comes from within. It is a reflection of the peace, wisdom, and love that you cultivate in your heart. And just like the lotus flower, the more you nurture it, the more it will bloom and spread its fragrance to the world. This section invites you to step into your role as a beacon of light. It's an invitation to not only live for yourself, but to live for others, with compassion, wisdom, and a deep sense of connection to the world around you. Part 9. Embracing the journey, a life of continuous transformation. The journey is the destination. We are constantly becoming, always evolving, never arriving. As we reach the final part of this transformative journey, we come to an essential realization. Transformation is not a destination. It is a continuous, unfolding process that shapes us in ways we may not always recognize. In the Buddhist path, There is no fixed point of arrival. Instead, it is the journey itself, the constant practice of self-awareness, compassion, and mindfulness that defines our life. We are always in the process of becoming. The nature of impermanence. At the heart of Buddhist teaching is the concept of impermanence, that all things are in a constant state of flux. This includes our own lives, our understanding, and our capacity for growth. The very essence of who we are is constantly changing, and it is through this change that we find our true path. Embracing impermanence is essential to understanding the fluid nature of transformation. If we view ourselves as fixed beings, then the challenges we face can feel overwhelming. But if we embrace the truth that change is inevitable, we begin to see each experience, whether painful or joyful, as part of the process of becoming. Every setback, every obstacle, and every success is an opportunity for transformation, an invitation to deepen our understanding and grow into a more awakened version of ourselves. Continuous learning and growth. The journey of transformation is one that requires commitment to continual learning. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness and meditation is not a one-time act, but a lifelong practice. It is through daily reflection and mindfulness that we can cultivate wisdom and clarity. Just as a river continuously flows and carves its path through the landscape, so too does our life unfold through constant learning and self-discovery. In our modern world, we often seek fast answers and immediate results. But in truth, transformation is rarely instantaneous. It takes patience, perseverance, and a willingness to look deeply into the self. This process may not always be easy or linear, but it is always meaningful. We learn not just through external sources, but through our own experiences, our mistakes, and our successes. The Buddha's journey was one of deep, ongoing learning. From the moment he left his palace to the moment he achieved enlightenment, his life was a series of revelations. He did not arrive at wisdom in an instant. Rather, it was through years of questioning, searching, and practicing that he arrived at the truth. This journey, like ours, was one of continuous transformation. The power of patience. Patience is another essential quality on this journey. As we work toward our transformation, it is easy to become frustrated with our perceived lack of progress. We may feel that we should be further along, or that our growth is too slow. But patience teaches us to trust the process, to accept where we are, and to allow life to unfold at its own pace. The Buddhist practice of right effort teaches us to cultivate energy in a way that is gentle and consistent. It is about steady, mindful action rather than hurried, reactive behavior. We must learn to accept the moments of stillness and quiet growth, knowing that each step, no matter how small, is a step forward, finding joy in the process. In the West, we often view change and transformation through the lens of struggle and hard work. But in Buddhism, transformation is not merely about overcoming obstacles. It is also about finding joy in the process itself. True joy arises not from the final destination, but from the understanding that life, in all its imperfections, is already complete. This is why the practice of gratitude is so important on the path of transformation. By cultivating a sense of gratitude for what is, rather than focusing on what isn't, we create the conditions for true happiness. Each breath, each moment, is an opportunity for joy. The more we cultivate gratitude and presence, the more we find ourselves at peace with our journey. Practical steps for embracing the continuous journey. First, practice patience. Understand that transformation takes time. Be patient with yourself and embrace the process of becoming. Second, engage in continuous learning. Make time for daily reflection, meditation, and mindfulness practices. Commit to learning from every experience. Third, accept impermanence. Understand that change is natural and necessary. Allow yourself to flow with the currents of life, rather than resisting them. Fourth, cultivate gratitude. Practice gratitude for every moment, recognizing that joy arises in the journey itself, not just at the end. Fifth, surrender to the process. Let go of the need for control. Trust that each step you take is part of a larger, meaningful process. The wisdom of continuous transformation. In the end, the true wisdom of transformation lies in our willingness to remain open to change and growth. We do not need to be perfect, nor do we need to arrive at a fixed point. Instead, we must remain dedicated to the process of self-discovery, compassion, and mindfulness. The journey is never over, and that is the beauty of it. Every day is a new opportunity to grow, to learn, and to become more fully who we are meant to be. And as we continue on this path, we learn to embrace the transformation itself, not as something to be achieved, but as a way of being. So, as we conclude this video, I leave you with this reminder. The journey itself is the destination. Every step, every moment, is an opportunity to embody the wisdom, peace, and compassion that you seek. May your journey always be filled with light, love, and transformation.